Everybody to the research methodology course of the year 2020. This is an introduction about the course, what it is you will be required to do, and how assessment will be made. In this course, there are 7 documents that are required for content and research ethics approval from every one of you. And these documents are your proposal, the questionnaire of study, the letter of permission for data collection, an information leaflet, an informed consent form, a proposal checklist, and a research ethics checklist. The choice of methods for conducting your research will depend on the types of variables of study you have in your proposal. If you have quantitative variables of study in the questionnaire of your study, then you will be able to use robust parametric methods of data analysis. On the other hand, if in your study you are particularly interested in subjective variables, which are qualitative in nature, you will be required to utilize qualitative research methods of data collection and analysis. Now let's talk briefly about content and ethics approval. And step number 1 would be for you to obtain content approval for your research proposal. That will be followed by research ethics approval. Ethics approval will only be granted following content approval. And sometimes students will be given comments in formal letters from the business school research committee, and those comments must be addressed. And when amended documents are resubmitted to the research committee, then a covering letter must be signed by the supervisor and attached to the amended submissions. There are templates, tables of contents, styles, layouts, and formats that need to be followed by all of our MBA students. In order to simplify the task of adhering to such recommended templates, I will be sending out sample documents to follow. Please utilize these sample documents very carefully. Allocation of supervisors to MBA students is done by the research administrator. That would be Mrs. Rihanna Knighton. She is the research administrator of the business school. You all have her email address, and you will have to communicate with her in cases where you have any problem with regards to the allocation of supervisors. Now, students are paired to their supervisors based on the title of their study and the availability of willing supervisors, and a matching will be done between the research focus areas of available supervisors and titles of studies proposed by the student. The working relationship between supervisors and the students must be such that it is harmonious in nature, and we urge our students to keep working with their allocated supervisors unless otherwise they are completely unable to work with their allocated supervisors. And in such cases, a letter of consent will be required from the supervisors in order to consider a request for a change of supervisor. Now, the titles and topics in all MBA research proposals and supporting documents must be first proposed by the students, and those must be acceptable to their respective supervisors. And covering letters must come along with amended documents, and those covering letters must be signed by supervisors. Letters of permission must be written on a letterhead of the institution granting permission for data collection, and the name and designation and contact detail of the person signing the letter must be clearly visible on the letter. And most importantly, the letter must say whether or not the student is allowed to use the name of the institution in their MBA dissertation and potential publication article. And letters of permission must be submitted as part of research ethics approval, and those letters are very important. In some cases, the research ethics committee may demand additional clarifications, and please be aware of that. Use of freely available secondary data sets. There are some secondary data sets that are publicly available for everybody, and in such cases we do not require a letter of permission for data collection. We do not require a questionnaire of study. There will be no need for an information leaflet and an informed consent form. It will be enough for the students to specify the source of their data sets plus the names of variables they will be analyzing from the secondary data set that is freely available. On the other hand, there are secondary data sets that are restricted, and in such cases, students will be required to obtain letters of permission from the owners of such data sets in order to utilize such restricted secondary data sets. The collection of data on race group, language group, and sexual orientation is sensitive, and students who wish to do that will be required to provide a brief motivation in a form of a paragraph as to why it is necessary to collect data on racial categories or language groups or sexual orientation. Please be mindful about the highest level of formal education in South Africa. There are standard levels that are recognized and defined by the Bureau of Statistics. That would be Statistics South Africa. Please utilize categories as has been defined by Stats. Language groups, there are 11 of them. These are once again designated and properly defined by Stats, and please stick to those definitions. And the styles used for naming your RMD documents must be followed carefully. Please have a look at the file naming structure provided to you in a form of an example. The first one says Kambule Proposal 13 June 2020. Kambule is the surname of the student. Proposal shows that this is the proposal being submitted, and 1/3 June 2020 is the date on which submission is being made by the student, English style. Thank you very much. Now, request for a change of supervisor must be entertained by asking the research administrator of the business school for help. And a consent letter would be required from the current supervisor of study in order to consider such a request for a change of supervisor. Copyright regulations. Students must refrain from copying materials written by other authors and researchers as is. Students must be able to articulate their own research ideas by using their own words and phrases. All MBA dissertations are assessed for originality by using Turnitin software, and percentage similarities must be 20% or less by the standards of TUT. In cases where percentage similarities exceed 20%, students will be required to rewrite those sections of their work that are similar with what has been written by other authors in their own words and phrases. The appointment of examiners can only be done at the request of supervisors. When the supervisor is convinced that the dissertation is ready for examination, the supervisor will make a request through the research administrator of the business school in order for the appointment of examiners to be considered by the research committee, and the required documents are a dissertation that is ready for examination, and a similarity report in which percentage similarity is 20% or less, and a letter of consent from the current supervisor, and a copy of the research ethics approval letter. Now, for this course, assessment will be made by assessing your 7 documents. The pre-exam assessment will carry 35% of the course weight, and these 7 documents are the proposal, the questionnaire of study, the information leaflet, the informed consent form, the letter of permission for data collection in cases where there's a gatekeeper for the study to be conducted, the proposal checklist, the ethics checklist. The final examination of this course will be a 4-hour open book written exam. The final exam will consist of 2 case studies and 5 workout problems. Case studies will not be sent out to students before the final exam, and the students must attempt both case studies and the 5 workout problems in the final exam. And students will be allowed to use non-programmable scientific calculators. And a final sample exam plus the solutions will be sent out to all students by email. The same will be posted on my tutor. There are recommended books for the course. These are universally well-known textbooks, and I encourage you to utilize these recommended textbooks. My consultation hours are to be fixed by sending me an email. I use my TUT email address. I also use my Gmail email address. You can use either one of or both my email addresses, and you just have to send me an email. I will make an appointment for you individually. We'll get together in my office and consultation will happen. And submission of documents for assessment. The due date for submitting your documents is the 13th of June 2020. Submissions will have to be made by uploading each one of your 7 documents at my tutor on or before the 13th of June 2020. And in addition to that, you will still be required to send me what you will be uploading at my tutor by using my email address. And thank you very much.